I hope you enjoyed the first chapter and enjoyed meeting my best friend Sophia as well. She is overly protective and a bit flirtatious, but she has good instincts. In this chapter, I will come in contact with someone who will greatly influence my story. You can't miss this chapter, so get comfy and let's dive in. Chapter 2. Gabriella's eyes fluttered open at the sensation of wet lips pressed against her cheek. Sophia's oblong face and bright sparkly blue eyes stared down at her. Her loose black curls cascaded down her slender shoulders and tickled Gabriella's nose as they brushed against it. "Buongiorno, sleepyhead," Sophia said with a broad smile. Gabriella groaned and rubbed her eyes before she sat up in bed. "What's for breakfast?" "You tell me," Sophia laughed. "Look through the refrigerator and make something." "Gabby, I'm going to ask about getting you a job at my office soon, so start working on your Italian, okay? That way I'll be with you the entire time while you transition should you encounter nervousness," she smiled. "You can always paint in your free time until you are ready to launch out as a big star." "Sophia, don't go asking about a job yet. I need a month at least to improve what little I already know of the language," she muttered as she faintly smiled. "I want to spend some time with your parents before I dive head-on into work. But thank you." Sophia pulled Gabriella into a tight embrace while Gabriella wrapped her arms around Sophia. "Don't start crying now, Sophia," Gabriella whispered before Sophia eased out of their embrace. Sophia nodded. "I won't. I'm so glad you're here for good now," she said, striding towards the door. "I'm off to work now. I'll see you later, Gabby." "Have a good day at work," Gabriella nodded and waved. "I will," Sophia said, then closed the door behind her. Gabriella stepped out of bed and smiled as she stretched her arms. She was excited to see what the day had in store. She sauntered to the bathroom, freshened up, then went to the kitchen to prepare something to eat. A smile spread across her face when she found every ingredient she needed to make an omelette. While she whisked the eggs and milk together, she sang aloud as the words to one of her favorite William McDowell worship songs. "Withholding nothing, popped I in her head." She placed the bowl aside, diced a tomato and grated cheese. She pulled out a pack of matches from the utensil drawer to light a burner on the stove. Soon after melting butter in the frying pan, she poured her egg mixture in and stirred. Gabriella stared down at the golden-crusted omelette, pleased with her creation. She poured boiling water and dropped a chamomile tea bag into a mug. She sat at the dining table for a few minutes, lost in a daze. Soon after, she blessed her meal and ate. After taking the last bite of the omelette, she sipped her tea, allowing the chamomile's calming effect to relax her. Not giving her stomach any time to digest her food properly, she stood and walked to the sink to wash her dishes. As she rinsed the plate under the tap, she felt a tingling sensation in her hands. She placed the dish in the drainer and started opening and closing her hands in a swift motion. "Itching to paint, are we?" she uttered to herself. Drying her hands on the towel, she walked to the kitchen door and pushed it open. "This is perfect, very peaceful." Manicured perfectly was the grass that covered the backyard's center, stopping at a wooden platform at the back, which housed a table. Rose bushes lined the entire left wall. The wind brushed past her, awakening her senses to the rose's sweet aroma. Gabriella walked across the yard to the rose bushes and leaned forward, her nose inches away from them. As she inhaled, her lips curled into a smile. She stood and picked a single rose and then strolled to the opposite side of the backyard. Gabriella grabbed the hammock tied between two thick, shady trees to steady it before nestling into it. She lied back, brought the rose to her nose and closed her eyes. Another brush of wind blew by Gabriella again, this time stronger than before, causing the hammock to sway. "It's a shame spring is almost over. I would be happy with this cool air and warm sunshine all year round. Summer was way too hot last time I was here," she lamented while raising herself upright. Gabriella exhaled as she stood and stretched to loosen her stiff muscles. She walked back inside the house and headed to her bedroom. Lying her suitcase onto the floor, she unzipped and flung the flap open. She tossed her clothing from the suitcase onto her bed and carefully removed the 3 paintings. "There you are," she said to herself, lifting her sketchpad along with a pouch containing her favorite paint brushes and drawing pencils from the bottom of the suitcase. Gabriella was in no mood to repack everything into the suitcase. She replaced only the paintings and pulled back the zipper to close it. "I'll sort you out later," she said to the heap of clothes on the bed. Gabriella walked out to the backyard to sit in the hammock and sketched away. Sometime later her stomach growled. Staring down at her watch, it startled Gabriella to see it was 1:25 p.m. Wow, time sure flies when you're doing something you love. Doesn't feel like it's been 3 hours. Closing the sketchpad, she packed up the pencils and strolled into the kitchen. She searched the fridge and cupboards for something to prepare for lunch. She made a ham sandwich and added every vegetable she could find, and, of course, cheese. Before walking out of the kitchen, she poured herself a tall glass of orange juice. She noticed an Italian phrase book on the coffee table. "Sophia," she said with a chuckle, shaking her head. She placed the glass of orange juice next to it and sank into the sofa. Gabriella bit deep into her sandwich and stared at it. She wondered when Sophia had bought the book. Although she felt grateful, she didn't feel all that enthused to learn from a How to Speak Italian book. With being a classroom pupil, learning on her own bored her, but she decided she'd try, but only after she had finished her lunch. After she ate and washed the dishes, Gabriella sat back on the sofa, book in hand. She flipped through its pages and made mental notes of the important aspects to know for beginners. After about 30 minutes, she stared at one page, completely stuck in the scenario. "That's enough for now. My eyes need a break," she muttered and stood. Gabriella walked to the front of the house and out onto the driveway to view the neighborhood. It seemed quiet. There were quite a few beautiful houses and it looked like a safe community. Few persons were out that day. At work and school, perhaps, she thought to herself. A young man soon walked by her gate. "Buongiorno," he said with a smile and continued walking. "Buongiorno," she responded, smiling back. Seems friendly too, she thought. Walking back inside the house, she turned on the television but only flicked through the channels. The Italian channels were not interesting and she understood very little. Even the Spanish and English channels were uninteresting. Her eyelids grew heavy. Unbeknownst to her, she dozed off. A gentle tapping on her shoulder woke her. "For how long have you been out?" Sophia whispered near her ear. "I don't know." Gabriella rubbed her eyes and sat upright on the couch. All the channels must have planned something today. They were all such a drag. "I stayed awake for as long as I could, but in the end, sleep won." She chuckled at her silly remark. "Hey then. Let's go out? I would have loved for us to go dancing, but after what you said yesterday, we can go out for dinner and maybe stroll through the park afterwards." "That sounds great, and Sophia, we will go dancing again. Give me time to get used to Mum and Dad's absence." Sophia smiled and nodded. "Go change and please wear something sexy and hurry," Sophia said as she dashed to her room. Gabriella followed suit and in no time, changed into a black flare dress paired with low heels. She felt pleased with her choice as she walked back into the living room. Sophia sat and waited, sporting a white dolly high-low top with fitted blue jeans and knee-high boots. She jumped to her feet as Gabriella approached and gave her a look of disapproval. "No, no, 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 no. Black is too depressing and reminds me of death. It might invoke sad thoughts in you. But I like black, Sophia. Even so, wear something with cheerful colors tonight. They will help brighten your mood." Gabriella sighed and spun around towards her room. "Wait." Sophia grabbed her hand. "Come with me." Inside Sophia's room, Gabriella sat on the bed. She watched as Sophia searched the closet from where she emerged, clutching a beautiful sky blue dress. "How about this?" Sophia asked as she held up the dress. Gabriella smiled and took the dress from her hand. "It's lovely, not too short either." She rose from the bed and ran off to change. Both women could pass for sisters undoubtedly. Both were petite, merely over 5'2" in height, and had slender physiques. They had shoulder-length black curls and oblong faces. Gabriella, however, had a much darker tone than that of Sophia's. She had round brown eyes, a small nose, and full lips that made her smile contagious. They drove to a restaurant close to the park, which stood on the building's second floor, providing a beautiful city view. Looking out from the seat at which she sat, Gabriella could see how busy the city was. The motorists filled the intersections and crossways. The park stood across the road, near the restaurant. Its gates looked grand and ancient yet strong. Gabriella could see the tall trees on the inside, which overshadowed everything from the distance from where she sat. Sophia tapped her hand to get her attention as the waiter arrived to take their orders. "I would like the chicken parmesan," Gabriella said softly with a smile. "And I want the chicken, tomato and mozzarella gnocchi. Bring us 2 glasses of wine as well, please." After the waiter left, Sophia stared at Gabriella with a wide-toothed grin. "What is it, Sophia?" "I called Mum this afternoon and told her we're coming this weekend to visit." Sophia danced a little dance. "She is so excited." "Why did you do that, Sophia? Did I not tell you I wanted to surprise them?" "You never let me do anything myself," said Gabriella, staring at Sophia with a frown. "I'm sorry, but you know how I get when I'm excited. Forgive me, please." Sophia gave her a pitiful look, triggering an arch in Gabriella's brow. "Well, that's okay. I won't tell you anything when I plan to surprise anyone." "You would ruin that for me too," Gabriella said, feigning a smile. "Oh, come on, I said I was sorry." "Oh, I know how to make you forgive me," Sophia teased with excitement. "Really?" Gabriella scoffed. "Jorge Bozero." Her eyes widened and a smile spread across her face. She noticed Gabriella narrow her eyes. "Okay, I'm listening." Gabriella's interest grew. "He is coming to Milan next week." Sophia blurted from the excitement that bubbled up inside her. Gabriella stared at her with a blank expression. "I don't believe you, Sophia. That's a terrible prank to pull on someone." "Okay," Sophia said with one hand raised, surrendering. "I was going to surprise you, but since I interfered with your surprise and made you angry, this was the only way to gain your forgiveness." She dipped into her handbag and pulled out 2 tickets, then slid them across the table in front of Gabriella. Gabriella gasped at the sight of the 2 tickets. She stared at them before she picked them up and read the details. "Sophia, how did you get these?" She then laughed. I forgive you." Sophia gave her a winning smile. "A friend from the office won them, but a family emergency came up, and since she knew I liked his music, she gave them to me." You should have seen the way I kept kissing her face from my excitement, which had her laughing so hard. Gabriella laughed aloud. By the time dinner came, they were both in high spirits. "This chicken parmesan tastes so delicious. Oh, I love melted cheese." Gabriella lifted her napkin and wiped her mouth before she sipped her wine. "Oh, you don't have to convince me." Sophia chuckled and licked the sauce from her bottom lip. "What's this called again?" Gabriella asked as she dipped her fork into Sophia's food. "Chicken, tomato and mozzarella gnocchi. Tastes good, doesn't it?" "It does. I'll have to order that next time we go out." Gabriella raised the wine glass to her lips again, taking a longer sip. "Hey, have you forgotten it's wine you're drinking, not water? You can't gulp it down so fast," Sophia exclaimed. Gabriella laughed. "I know, but sometimes I can't fully enjoy its taste from one sip. I know it sometimes goes to my head." Sophia rubbed her tummy and exhaled. "I am stuffed." Gabriella giggled. "Good thing we're walking down to the park afterwards. It's the best way to work off this food." "Sure is." Sophia spun in her chair, scanning the restaurant for their waiter. After spotting him, she signaled him for their bill. She returned her attention back to Gabriella. "Ready to go?" "In a few minutes, Sophia. I need a drink of water first." "How do you ask that in Italian? Did you not read anything in the phrase book I left you today?" "I started to but fell asleep." "Tell me." "Posso bere un bicchiere di acqua," Sophia said. Gabriella repeated the Italian translation and Sophia laughed. "Are you sure you don't want me to ask for the water for you instead? You may get a funny look from the waiter," she teased. "Laugh all you want. You sounded funny while you were learning how to speak patois back home." She felt pleased as she giggled and repeated the phrase. Gabriella stretched out for the bill as the waiter placed it on the table, soon before meeting Sophia's look of disapproval. She pulled her hand back and watched as Sophia dug deep into her purse for cash. Gabriella stared at the waiter, remembering she wanted to ask for some water. "Can I have a water, please?" she proudly said in Italian, secretly relieved the waiter didn't oddly stare at her. "Make that too," Sophia added, handing the bill to the waiter. He smiled. "Sure, ladies." After having left the restaurant, Gabriella and Sophia marched arm in arm, giggling down the street. As they crossed the street to the park, Gabriella's heel twisted in the stone pavement, wringing her ankle and causing her to fall. With an onto her, Sophia came down. Two men who were walking behind them rushed to assist them. "Are you ladies all right?" the men asked in unison. One man lifted Sophia off Gabriella while the other scooped Gabriella off the ground. The man carried Gabriella to a nearby light post in front of the park. She leant her uninjured side against the post and held on to balance herself. The intense pain she felt in both her left arm and leg caused her to squeeze her eyes tightly. A cold gust of air brushed against her skin, causing her to groan aloud. Unscathed, Sophia scurried to Gabriella after the men assisted her. "Gabby, you're bleeding," her voice trembled. Sophia pulled hand sanitizer wipes from her bag and cleaned the blood from Gabriella's bruised knee. "Oh, ouch!" Gabriella yelped. "I'm sorry, Gabby, but I have to clean these cuts to prevent infections," she whispered as she gently cleaned the wound. Gabriella bit her lip hard while Sophia cleaned the bruise on her knee, but as Sophia stood and tried to do the same to her wrist, Gabriella flinched and screamed. "Sophia, leave it. I think I may have twisted it. Get me some pain tablets before you touch my wrist again," she winced. Seems like the walk in the park was not meant for today. Gabriella mustered up the courage to laugh. "We'll come back," Sophia assured her. "Can we help you ladies back to your vehicle?" one man offered. Yes, thank you," Sophia answered, hardly giving the man time to finish his sentence. At that moment, a vehicle passed and stopped a distance in front of them. "Vincent!" the driver yelled. "Excuse me, ladies," he said as he ran towards the vehicle. The other young man stood next to Sophia as they waited for his friend to return. "I'm John and that is Vincent," he said, introducing himself and his friend, both of which looked to be in their late 20s. "I'm Sophia and she's Gabriella. Pleased to meet you both." Sophia smiled with her eyes fixed on John. Gabriella turned her head towards him and smiled, trying her best to be pleasant, despite the pain she endured. "Nice to meet you too, John." She averted her eyes to watch the vehicles pass and groaned once again. "Are you all right, Gabriella?" Sophia asked. Without turning to Sophia, Gabriella frustratingly whispered, "Yes, I'm fine." The traffic light on the street turned red, resulting in a pickup truck halting dead in its tracks directly in front of the group. Gabriella's eyes locked with the male passenger sitting in the back. A smile spread across the young man's face, and Gabriella felt a warmness flooding her heart, a feeling she had not felt in a long time. She soon felt a smile rest on her face as if nothing else mattered at that moment. He felt a connection. Seconds later, the traffic light turned green. Before the vehicle slowly rolled away, the man raised his hand and waved to her, and Gabriella waved back without giving it a second thought. She watched him vanish from her sight and felt as if her heart shattered. That's it for today's chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next episode and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss it. If this story speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next chapter.